Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Here we go. Your dial set correctly to USAPrepares.com. We're delighted you're here, and we're broadcasting 2 hours from high atop the Missouri Ozark Mountains. If you'd like to call us,
you're okay.
866-582-9933, 866-582-9933. There's a link to your instructors on the website. John is engineering the broadcast in Minnesota. I'm Vincent Finelli. Doc Ram's with us. Welcome, Richard Allen Miller.
Good morning, Vincent. I wanted to do that.
Yeah.
Hour bid. Good morning, Vietnam. I just restrained myself, didn't.
Yeah. Speaking of good morning, Rick, it's great to be off the tractor seat. I've had 6 days of farming bliss.
The hemorrhoid hump. I know that's fun, man.
Jeez. I've been riding around in circles on a tractor, and so is Mrs. Finelli.
Going around.
Yeah. And I was thinking, I calculated one circle on the outer part of the circle, started out spiraling inward. It was about a mile in one field, just going round and round and round, to the center. And so we baled, we cut and raked and tedded and baled about 230,000 pounds of hay in 6 days.
Sizable. Yeah.
Yep. Literally.
Welcome to the changing weather.
Yeah, well, that's why we're on the tractor, and I was unable to do live broadcast because, that old saying, make hay while the sun shines, and that's what you had to do.
Yeah.
And, and Rick, the weather, it was kind of nice. The murderers were not flying as much. The planet murderers were not flying as much. There weren't as many visible chemicals in the sky that were deliberately put there for our respiration discomfort.
You should count your blessings. Mike Mandeville, a friend since 1971, is visiting me right now, and he could not believe the way they were laying down the trails here in Grants Pass. And the thing that bothers me the most is the irresponsibility of science today, not coming forth with full disclosure on what's going on and how it's actually affecting the earth. It is a disgrace to the field of science, and is why many people are going to shortly turn away and not believe anything anybody is saying, especially scientists.
As I was going around in circles for the last several days, Rick, I was thinking about what the media is reporting about terror and beheadings and how people are just terrified of these beheadings. And I was thinking, maybe these guys, these ISIS guys, have the wrong focus. Maybe, there would be a rally behind them if they changed their focus to stopping the chemtrails. Now, I'm going to leave it at that. I mean, I have to be careful how I say this because I'll get a visit in the next couple of minutes if I say what I'm really thinking.
But imagine, it's terrible. It's beyond terrible, and I'm waking up to now with congestion of which I've never experienced before, and everybody's coughing,
including Hillary Clinton.
All the trees here in Oregon.
Yep. We have some trees here that.
Not a drought.
we have some trees here that the leaves are changing color early, and I'm thinking about all the damage that these murderers are doing, and it's, I was thinking, yeah, it's omnicide. It literally is. They're killing everything on the planet. However, I don't think we can use the word omnicide, because when we call these guys out, they're probably devoid of so many IQ points that they wouldn't understand what we're talking about. So I'm referring to them as, well, I'm talking about the people who are actually, not the guys who designed the system to kill us. Not those guys. They're pretty bright. They're evil, but they're bright. I'm talking about the minions who are doing the dirty work for them. Those guys aren't too bright, because if they were...
This is a result of the loss of the family and the Common Core and the educational process and the dumbing down of America with TV and commercials and the rest of it. Consumerism.
And that was one of the things I want to talk with you about today. And I have a friend who ran a school, a high school. And he'd put his arm over my shoulder and say, Vincent, they say that this is the best and brightest crop of students we've ever had, it's just hard to prove it.
Yeah.
And
when you look back at societies like the Greeks and some of the others and the way they lived, I long for a different kind of a universe. And I have no idea how we're going to play this. Hillary Clinton will probably not make the primary, the election. She probably won't last before then. How are you going to vote? How do you vote when you don't believe in either candidate and you don't want to vote against one for the other? What do? Use Pinocchio? Pinocchio, at least when he lies, you'd know it.
Well, we know, Rick, come on. We know when Hillary's lying. Her lips are moving.
Donald Trump is the other one. He has changed his position for votes. Now, how good a president can he make, even if he's not qualified? He's not.
Rick, of the two that have been selected for our polling pleasure, I would definitely go with Trump, because he's not an insider. Okay, for that reason alone.
But now, and it's true. But Trump is being paid off or he's changing his policy for votes. Why?
Well, because he's figured out that he's got to get in order to do what he wants, and that's what Barry did. Barry Soetoro did the same thing. He was going to bring our troops home. He was the guy who was going to clean up the corruption in Washington. At least he let us believe that. And then when he got there, he increased he escalated the conflicts, got more people killed, more young men and women killed. These guys, they know that they have to lie. They believe they have to lie. But in terms of Hillary,
Michael is an expert in such things as Dulles Brothers, and they brought this whole thing about, the Ford Motor Company signal, that little button you have with a swastika on it, says it all in one single image.
Yeah, Michael, are you on a speakerphone where Michael can join us? Michael Mandeville?
Yeah, sure am.
Okay, Michael, what Rick is talking about is over the years, our family has researched history, and we've gone to military shows, and we've talked to experts, and we've met some of the crew of Boxcar, which bombed Japan. And so we've met some very interesting people. We met a machinist in the German Navy who was on the Bismarck. And so we met some really, really neat people. And the item that Rick and we bought some very interesting things, of which there are very few of. And one of the things that we found was a men's lapel pin. And it's a tiny thing. It's a stick pin that you would put in your sports coat or suit coat. And it had the Ford oval, the blue Ford oval, attached right next to it to the red background Nazi swastika. So it was like Ford and the Third Reich were in bed together. That's what that said. Okay, so they were together, and it's in this pin, and we have this darn thing. It's tiny, but it says Ford and the Third Reich are united.
Well, yeah, that's right. In fact, but that's just the tip of an iceberg. There, there was a lot of industrial corporations that were involved in the rise of Nazi Germany. Hitler himself was financed. We have found out through various historical studies, especially the last decade, was financed by American and British financiers. Hitler himself believed he was in an alliance with the English aristocracy, and his mission was going to be to save Europe and Britain from communism. I mean, so, they were in bed early together, and how the twists and turns of fate fell out after that gets very complex. But let's just say that the Nazi program was basically where Fabian socialism wanted to go and the kind of world order they wanted to create for the world. So we have a model there, and many of its characteristics are being copied right now into the creation of European law. I mean, European Union law, and in the U.S. and of course in Britain. So it's at the elite, at the corporate elite, financier, extremely wealthy aristocratic family or non-aristocratic families. The world is a small place, and they know each other, and they have evolved a group think, which is substantially different than the way you and I think. And that's our reality.
Right outside the studio that I'm broadcasting from right this moment, I have a library. And in that library are several copies of Third Reich cigarette albums. And these albums are, probably an inch thick. They're easily 8.5 by 11, maybe a little bit larger. And they had these blank areas where if you smoked cigarettes and you got the coupons on the back of the cigarettes, you could turn them in for photographs, reproduced photographs of some of the individuals involved in the Third Reich. And it's amazing how many people fell in line to follow the Third Reich, and I believe it's because of nationalism. And I believe that for the same reason, people are looking forward to Trump being selected as president. Not that he's Adolf Hitler. That's Doc Ram's with us, Dr. Richard Allen Miller, and Mike Mandeville is with us. And I mentioned at the end of the last segment this cigarette album that I have, and I just went out to the library.
By the way, Vincent, you need just for me, just a little bit more volume, just a which more for me, please.
All right. We're going to take care of that right now.
Thank you.
Okay, so I went to to get this cigarette album off the shelf, and it's about 160 pages, and this one is full. Every blank area pasted in very carefully by hand of the former very proud owner of this cigarette album. And the reason I mentioned Adolf Hitler and Donald Trump is I'm not saying that they're the same, and I'm not saying that anything other than back in the 30s and the 20s, late 20s, Germany was looking for leadership. They had an economic crisis. People were starving. Inflation was running high, and they were looking for a solution. And Adolf Hitler was a guy who was very charismatic at the time, and he unified the country. He brought everybody into going in one direction, nationalism, as I see it. And I believe that for a similar reason, our country is broke. The United States is broke. There are people who are homeless, jobless, and there's a lot of
Vincent, we're like Germany right now. We need a leader. We're jobless, no gross national product. We're going down in a toilet. The two are not like dissimilar.
You're exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
Situations has many parallels.
That's where Vincent was going when we were cut off the air. This does not happen very often.
Which would you like me to use, the telephone or the? Okay, very good.
I'm
Okay,
there now. I can hear you, Vincent.
Well, it was very interesting.
Figures that you said a key thing that the air, and now somebody is trying to call me from Florida. I can't believe it.
Yeah. Well, let me just finish this so no one misunderstands what I'm saying. Please don't think, class, or anyone who might listen to this later on, that I am likening Donald Trump to Adolf Hitler. I am not. What I am saying is that Germany was looking for leadership. The United States is looking for leadership. And wouldn't it be nice if we had some common goals? Like back in the 1960s, we had John Fitzgerald Kennedy and the space program. And we were rooting for Team USA. We were rooting for us. And we haven't had anything since.
There was nationalism. There was pride in what you did. There was gross national product.
Right. And it's not, and it hasn't been like that. We haven't had it since. So that's why I think there's this attention toward Donald Trump. He's an outsider, and people are thinking that, he's probably our best choice. Now, if you look at Hillary Clinton, I asked Dr. Norman Shealy, we talked about congenital, meaning from birth, and we talked about lying, the inability to tell the truth. And I said, Dr. Shealy, is it possible that Hillary Clinton is a congenital liar? And he said, yes. So here we have someone who's been lying from birth, and she can't tell the truth about anything. She's got this cough, and she blames it on Donald Trump. It's ridiculous.
It's not just possible that it's been demonstrated and proven and summarized by a whole lot of people that she is a congenital liar.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to ask Dr. Shealy because he's a brain surgeon. He's a medical doctor. He's world famous. He travels, all over the planet giving lectures and seminars, and he's brilliant. And that's why I wanted to get a bona fide medical opinion from a brain surgeon. Is Hillary Clinton a congenital liar? And he said yes. I also asked Dr. Shealy if politicians are defective, physically and mentally defective, and he said yes. So that explains the problem. They're also evil. We'll be right back. Rick Miller's with us, and Mike Mandeville's with us. I just want to share this with you. Drudge Report, page number 1, talks about tampons in the men's room. And so let me read this. Campusreform.org. Brown University's student body president will be hand-delivering menstrual products to all non-residential bathrooms on campus, including men's rooms, with the help of 20 other students. The initiative is intended to communicate the message. Now, listen very carefully to this. The initiative is intended to communicate the message that pads and tampons are a necessity, not a luxury, and here's the important point, and that not all people who menstruate are women. That's unbelievable. Men do not menstruate. Now, they may have some bacterial infection, which may cause some bleeding, but men do not menstruate. Brown University, campusreform.org. I don't know if this is a joke or they're serious about it, but if it's true, we're falling down, absolutely falling down. Any comments, Rick or Mike, before we take a call?
What just happened to me, I just got hacked. And not the radio, my computer. There are people now Mike, why don't you tell them what happened to your computer last night?
Oh, yeah. I have a top-of-the-line HP laptop with Windows 10, and I've also got a bunch of security guards on it to prevent problems. And I purposely turned off all the video circuitry when I booted up the machine for the first time. I went through and booted down or turned off a whole bunch of software switches, including the video cam. So it's never been on. And yesterday, I plugged into his Rick's network here yesterday, and I was on there for several hours. I told when I plugged into the network, I told the system, do not share. In other words, be invisible in Rick's network. And when I went to turn it off late last night, or I guess it was afternoon, I discovered that when it went to go on its boot down sequence in Windows 10, it'll list the programs that it's shutting off, and it listed that it was shutting down the video cam, the webcam, and also it was shutting down the host for the managing the interface with the network. And it's never done that before. It's never displayed those shutdowns before, and it should not, under any circumstances, have been telling me that it was turning off the video cam, because the video cam was not supposed to be on. It was supposed to be off. So I believe somebody is hacking his system and just plugged right into my system.
Well, I can tell you,
I'm not absolutely certain. I can't prove it, but there's a good bit of evidence there.
Mike, you noticed that we were talking about Hillary and Donald Trump and Adolf Hitler, and we had a problem on this broadcast. It has happened about 6 times so far, and every single time, not some of them.
When you were talking, when you just came on, my computer just switched over to a commercial. It should not have done that, and then all of a sudden I had audio going on loud. I had to rush quick to try to turn it off so it wouldn't interfere with your radio. And there is absolutely no question that I'm being monitored. And I wished I knew how to sweep my house, because I believe I have physical bugs all over my house. I believe somebody has come in here and put bugs in. I know they're doing it electronically through my computer. I'm far enough from the road, they can't use microwave, in terms of surveillance and things. But it's creepy. And to know that it's happening to me right now. I've been watching that series, Person of Interest, and I can candidly tell you that I think I'm in touch with something that's not human, and that's monitoring me.
Rick, I can tell you that when I mention the name Hillary, that's when we have problems, literally. And I have a device called it's a TEW-T1. It's a detector, and I've got it in my hands right now. It's made by TrendNet, TRENDNET, and it looks for invisible to the eye Wi-Fi signals, microwave signals, cordless phones, hidden cameras, and so forth.
It's different than a tri-field meter, yes?
Yes, it is. This is about the size. If you were to take a pack of cigarettes and slice it to 1/3 of its depth, that's about how big this thing is. A little handheld device. I'll tell you what, it's about half the thickness of a deck of cards. It's the size of a deck of cards, but half the thickness. And one of our engineers, Bert Bertonis in California, our radio frequency engineer, wanted me to have this, so I keep it on my desk. Rick, we've got a call.
I would love to have something like that. I'm telling you, I've had guests in that I didn't know who they were, how I opened my home to people. And now I have been warned about this one person, and he had access to my house while I was gone, that I now believe I've got bugs all over my house. Physical.
Well, Rick, what I've decided
to sweep it out.
I like you, invited, or welcomed a lot of people into our home. No more. Just people who are,
that picture now. Yeah.
Okay, we've got Mark in Missouri. Mark, you're on with Rick Miller. Thanks for calling in early.
Yeah, good morning. I'm sorry to hear you're having all these problems. I was wanting to talk about Joshua's longest day. If you look this up in Joshua, the book of Joshua, chapter 10, But I was listening to an astrophysicist over in the United Kingdom, and he was talking about that we're going to have 4 poles to the north and 4 poles to the south. And he mentioned like an egg, just picture an egg in your mind. And he said when these poles overlap like an egg, and then this is when there'll be extinction level events that will happen all at the same time. The other thing is too is I talked to a man, George Metcalf, who was appointed by JFK and to build the Houston Space Center. He was overall the command center as far as communications. And I told him about something that God showed me. It wasn't a vision or a dream, but it was what he actually showed me. And I said that I seen 2 celestial bodies heading for the earth. And he told me, just to make a short story, he said, that his mother told him this on her deathbed right before she passed away.
Are you talking about the asteroids that just did a flyby recently? Is that what you're talking about?
No, I'm talking about 2 comets that are headed towards Earth. And I actually talked to this George Metcalf back in 2013. And I said, I've seen this bright light, and this light hit the Earth, and it just destroyed everything that was darkness. And if you had the light of Christ in you, you didn't have to worry about it.
Okay, because a 32-foot asteroid passed pretty close to Earth, and that was, let me just go to it. I believe that was yesterday. And,
Kerry Cassidy had some remote viewers on that were trying to say that an asteroid was going to hit a major world city and that there would be massive loss of life in September. It didn't happen, but it shows how accurate remote viewing is not. But it did punctuate the fact that everyone is getting some kind of inner sense of end of days, that we are about to witness some physical changes on Earth. The orbit change of Earth right now is 3 degrees different than it was last year. And the pole shift, the physical pole or wobble of the Earth, has increased an additional 21 degrees towards Siberia. And, from our normal magnetic north and things like that, things are physically changing. And to what extent and how they will continue to change, something is affecting our sun.
Well,
the
comets are the only thing that can actually throw down mountains, and they can raise up mountains. They've been known to throw down islands, to raise up islands. So comets actually have a way of changing the topography and the geography.
Well, that's right. And we are obviously going to witness a series of events, including the day after tomorrow, because of the desalinization of our ocean and the loss of our ocean currents, like the Gulf Stream.
Yeah,
that's the physics of it. I don't know when, and I don't know how, and I don't know what's going to be first. But right now, when Popo just went off down in Mexico, that's our ring of fire, and we are actually starting to watch that thing ring across all the different fault lines.
Yeah, if you study about Joshua's long day in Joshua chapter 10, and you get into the science of that, it really does explain what I believe we're going to be going through again. And I believe that it's happening right now, of course.
What I've been doing is writing on time travel for my non-local minds book, and it's second to the last chapter. And I made a discovery in my writing. And I now have a physics explanation on what happens to consciousness at the moment and the moment just after death. And believe me when I tell you this, it's actually confirmed in Merkaba mysticism and other epochs like the Upanishads.
Well, this is
Mark, thanks so much for your... Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks so much for your call.
You. Yeah.
Hey, Rick, I understand that there's a RK Prepper show coming up, and that would be October 1 and October 2. in Kansas City. You going to be there?
Yes.
Well, yeah, and I'm going to be there too. I'm looking forward to it.
We can talk a little bit. That's very cool. Thank you, Vincent. I was hoping you'd say that.
Yeah, I'm going to be there. We'll be right back.
That's wonderful. That's super wonderful. Are you going to bring a cot like Joey did? What are you going to do?
So, Rick, you and I are going to be going to the Greater Kansas City Survival Expo. That's October 1st and 2nd at the KCI Expo Center in Kansas City, Missouri. And that's October 1 and 2. I'm really looking forward to seeing you there. And do you know what you're going to be talking about? Because the schedule doesn't list what you're going to be
Matt
saying.
And I decided we're going to just do the same thing we did before, but like I always do, I tangent, right? I have a planned program, and then I deviate from there. Because, well, I try to talk to what the audience wants to hear from me.
Huh?
You know, I come in with a plan, but like you, we tangent off because you know, something else is important to you at that moment. And that's what I am there for, is to respond to people's questions at that moment.
Mm-hmm. So Matt's going to be there as well. That's wonderful.
Yeah, it'll be nice. Matt's coming. Hopefully, Norman Cantwell will be there. I like him.
Yeah.
He's very cool.
Yeah. Did you guys spar yet?
Oh, no. He does energy work on me. I can't believe it, man.
Okay.
He's turned into a bliss bunny. I love him. He's a very cool guy.
Yep, he's a great guy. That's Norman Cantwell, USA Preparedness Instructor. And so Matt Stein, Senior Instructor, Rick Miller, Senior Instructor, will and I'll be there. I really think Stormin' Norman's
grin on his face like the canary that swallowed the cat.
Yeah.
Yep,
that's going to be fun. And by the way, you know, there's another show. I don't think I'm going to be able to make it, but for those interested in rounding out their firearm accessories, ammo, and firearms, September 10th. That's this weekend in Knoxville, Tennessee. It's at the Knoxville Expo Center all day, and that's RK Gun Show. So I'll post a link to that on the website as well. Rick and Mike Mandeville. Mike, can you give us a thumbnail picture of what politics is and what politics is not?
Oh, my goodness. What an enormously huge leading question.
Yeah, well, we got 3 minutes.
All right. Well, let's put it this way. We have a system of politics which has degenerated into manipulation by small cliques of people that we just can't get access to or directly influence. And they have been able to lock up control of the mass media. Of course, this is coming straight out of from the heirs of the Industrial Revolution, who have more or less controlled the industrial and financial aspects of our society. And so we just can't get a word in edgewise. And it's not even so much that we can't get a viable candidate. We can't even talk. We can't even share ideas. You get no reflection of the real world or of real people and what they're really thinking in the kind of media we have in this country. So our political problem is a media problem primarily. And so what we're looking at is displacement of that through the Internet. Basically, the Internet is and any other form of free media, but the Internet seems to be the kind of the how it's all getting interconnected. People are finding that they can share information and ideas, and we can begin to get an idea of where people are really at and what they are trying to do and hope to do. And out of that, will have to come the forging of the of a new kind of alliance, which some people are trying to figure out how to create new parties. I think party structure, as practiced in the Anglo-Saxon cultures, is a waste of time. I kind of believe, along with the founding fathers of this country, that you don't want to do political parties. What you want is a social alliance of people that can make clear what they want and what they do not, under any circumstance, want from government. And we're at the point now where we're going to have to get real clear about getting rid of stuff, or demolishing stuff, or directly changing various policies. For instance, we need a whole new police protocol in this culture. We don't need cops killing people when they're trying to perform their duties. There are superior ways, superior technologies, and
hold that thought. Everyone all set? Cocked, locked. Hour number 2. USA Prepares. Doc Ram's with us. Dr. Richard Allen Miller. His website, docram.com. DOCRAM.com. Mike Mandeville's with us. He's visiting Rick. And Mike, continuing from hour number 1, you were talking about politics, what it is and what it isn't. I just have a comment to make, and then I'd like you to continue about what you're saying about the cops. So politicians, as far as I can tell, promise something that they don't have to someone else in return for bribes and favors. Would you say that that's somewhat accurate?
Could you give me that question again? I'm
Sure.
sorry. I got distracted.
Sure. I think, in my opinion, politicians are individuals who promise something that they don't have to someone else in return for bribes and favors.
I think our politics has largely devolved down into that. You know, there are, especially at the local level, there are people who are much more sincere and more idealistic and attempt to be honest. But even at that level, people tend to make compromises about what they're saying and will overstate or overpromise. But at the national level, it is so grossly egregious that you can more or less just call them a basket full of liars most of the time. So, you know, you take it all with a grain of salt, and certain individuals who are identified, such as the Clintons, both of them are pretty bad. So I don't know where we go from here with that. Let me add one thing I wanted to add. If people want to find me on the internet, they should Google me at Michael Mandeville, and my full name, and that way they'll find me very easily. So anyway,
Michael Mandeville, Mandeville.
Yeah, that'll come up for them. So
okay.
Anyway,
very good. Now you were talking. One other thing you were talking about is cops, and that's one of my hot buttons, because I'm furious with the way that they tase people without bona fide reasons. They shoot people because they say, well, you know, I felt like my life was threatened, and they shoot people, and they chase people down in cars and high-speed chases. It seems like they're looking for that next adrenaline rush. They're looking for that next person to handcuff behind their back with these torture-linked handcuffs, and then shove them down the stairs when nobody's looking, and have them fall and break their faces, or put them in the back of a van, a police van, a cube van, and or truck, and then have the people that are in the back rattle around as they get thrown from side to side, going down the city streets in high-speed maneuvers. And people are banged up and broken up and even killed. And I've had it with them, and I think it needs to stop. And I think it will stop once the revolution or civil war starts, because anyone, in my opinion, who is wearing a uniform will become a target based on what the bad cops are doing, because the good cops, if there are any, aren't doing anything about it. Your comment?
Yeah, well, I think that there's a lot of different takes on that. One is, I think there are a lot of good cops, and I think the good cops are trying to do something about it, but they're fairly constrained about what they can do institutionally. So really, it's the community that has to set the standard. And we need to come together and set the standard. You know, all these things happen by default. It's like these policies of super aggressive, let's go in there with all maximum feasible force. And even if this is a veteran, we can still, and who served honorably, and we can still go in and forcibly break into his house in the dead of night. I mean, that's ludicrous. But that's happened, and it killed a genuinely hero in Arizona a couple of years ago or so. Can't remember the exact date, but anyway, these things are stupid. Why do we have Stalin, KGB, or Hitler Gestapo techniques of breaking into people's house at 2 a.m. in the morning?
What's wrong with the phone?
Necessary.
What's wrong with the phone?
Totally irrational.
Uh-huh.
And
yeah.
so
what's wrong with the phone?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
What's wrong with the phone? If the cops want to ask somebody something, they can call up
Right.
and ask that person, okay? They don't need to bash down a perfectly good door. They don't need to go into the wrong apartment, 606, when they meant 506, bash the door down. Some guys, some senior citizens watching TV with his wife, and he has a heart attack or she has a heart attack, or they shoot him, or they use a flashbang grenade, and the fragments end up in the baby's crib, and the baby gets burned. I mean, this is absolutely nuts. How did we get to this point? And my thought is that this will continue until we start firing the mayors of these cities.
Yeah.
Start at the top. You know, clean house, get a new mayor in there, and then fire the police chief, and you say, look, you know, you guys were in charge. Police chief, you were in charge. This happened under your watch. You're out of here. Lieutenants, you're out of here. Sergeants, you're out of here. As a matter of fact, everybody in management is out of here. We're starting over, and we're not promoting from within.
Well,
because all of you guys let it happen.
I think there are going to have to be some cases like that demonstrate that that's what's going to happen and go down if they don't clean up their act. And so, you know, I think that what you're outlining is a really good idea, that and maybe it's someplace like Chicago or I don't know, who knows where. But anyway, I think some things like that need to happen, and then the community can begin to express a clearer concept. But people need to stand up for that. I mean, they're going to have to show up at not necessarily street demonstrations, but rallies, and or support rallies and support petitions, and maybe even, you know, support sign campaigns and this and that. The community is going to have to stand up and express itself before that changes. And what we need is a new training protocol and background. I mean, a lot of these guys are, you know, out of the military. How do they understand how to interfere with somebody else in a forceful way? Well, they rely on their military training. What their military training tells them: go in with maximum feasible force. You know, don't take any chances. And so that's going to result in cops creating violence where none is needed at all. And so that's the
totally
kind
agreed.
That's the kind of thing that needs to be done.
Yeah, and you know, if a grenade comes into my house, I'm going to assume that someone is trying to kill me. I'm not going to assume that they mistook that for a doorbell or a telephone call to say, Vinny, we'd like to talk to you. Someone throws a grenade into my house, there's going to be return fire, because I'm going to assume someone's trying to kill me or my family.
I think that's the only realistic conclusion you can make. I mean,
well, here's part.
What else can you?
Right. Well, here's part B to that. Part B is if I feel threatened and other people feel threatened and they say, you know what, someone's bashing down the door. You know, I don't understand why they're bashing down the door. We have a doorbell. They could knock. I think this is bad. And so what happens when you see these signs of force, when people start shooting back and defending themselves, then the cops are going to say, I'll tell you what, Sarge, I don't think I'm going to go to those houses and bash down those doors, because remember what happened last week and the week before and the week before? You know, all these funerals that we're going to? Because the villagers are angry and they feel threatened, well, when they should, because we're coming in with machine guns and grenades and tasers and handcuffs and battering rams and MRAPs and helicopters. They feel threatened. I wonder why. I guess that's the problem. Maybe we shouldn't be doing this. Let's use the phone. That way nobody gets shot.
You forgot, you left out drones. That's the newest weapon in the arsenal, where they send a drone in. He knocks on your door. He doesn't have to fly. They'll walk shortly. They have robots now that are doing this for law enforcement. And wait till you see what they're doing in Chicago right now with those new cameras. That is a brand new camera. I posted it on Facebook a couple days ago. That camera is specific for pattern recognition on faces. And it's just like in the movies where it puts a square, a circle, or a triangle around your face.
Yeah, and so, class, make sure you use Facebook a lot and post lots of pictures there so they can have multiple angles of your images. Okay?
Really?
Yeah, there you go. There you go. And, make sure that they've got all the information they could possibly gather, because they've got databases that are huge and they need more information about us. How about in Baltimore, where they've got a small single-engine plane flying above the city, videoing everything and recording it real time, because it can go lower than a satellite.
Last week, and the drone was huge. It was bigger than a small aircraft. And they did it over Grants Pass, Oregon. Everybody saw it. There it was. It makes a noise. It's slow. And it was bigger than a small aircraft.
How about London? How about London? One camera for every 11 individuals. That's nuts. And since when do we allow these peeping Tom perverts to do these kinds of things?
The next part will be when they can come inside your brain and look at certain things that you're thinking. That will be next, because they want every moment of what you're doing. That's how they profile you.
I got a call this morning from Europe before the broadcast, and we were talking about these electromagnetic radiations that are coming, that are being transmitted in cities. So here we have the aluminum and maybe some other compounds coming from the air. We're inhaling it, and then they turn on these transmission towers, and they're getting picked up by radar as, hey, it's raining over there. It's not raining. It's these electromagnetic radiation transmissions that are being
it's synthetic.
What would you say?
They're experimenting with the particulate to see if they can turn you into a laptop.
There you go. That's exactly right. We'll be right back. Class Doc Ram's with us, and Mike Mandeville's with us. Rick, I was looking at netc.com, and I've noticed last night there were 15 Radcon 3 alerts, no Radcon 4 alerts. Right now, I'm looking at netc.com. There are 8 Radcon 4 alerts in the United States. And so where are they? Let me just very briefly let our class know. California for 2. Nebraska, 1. The Nebraska-Iowa line.
I just loaded it. I have never seen the United States lit up like this.
Right.
This is unbelievable today. This moment.
So Nebraska, 1. The Nebraska-Iowa border, 1. Alabama, 1. Georgia, 1. I'm talking about, when I say 1, I mean 1 Radcon 4 alert. North Carolina, 1. Let's see. Anybody else? Now that's just Radcon 4. There are plenty of Radcon 3, which is elevated. Right now there are 33 Radcon 3 alerts. Let me just give you a thumbnail of what they are. Here's where they are. Radcon 3 alerts. Oregon, Utah, California, Colorado, Arizona, Arkansas, Alabama, South Carolina, Virginia, Delaware, Maryland, New York, Michigan, gotta move this, Minnesota, Kansas, Missouri. That's it. I think that's it. West Virginia and Kentucky. So that's Radcon 3. The point I'm trying to make is that there's radiation everywhere. And I printed off something this morning about radiation in the air. And so for 50 years, we've been breathing tons. There's actually 487, let's see. In 50 years, everyone breathes around 487 tons of air. And there are lots of radioactive particles in it, and it's causing an increase in cancer, and there is no escaping it.
There is a life form that is associated with radiation called black slime mold, and it's found in Chernobyl and Fukushima as thriving. And now we're finding it attacking all of the monuments in Washington, D.C., and other locations where you have stone and this black mold that is associated with water springing up everywhere. And a friend of mine from JPL has suggested that it also would appear to act as if it were a nanobot that is somehow thriving on radiation and increasing itself with radiation increase. Now, that could be seen as an alien envision or trying to set the biosphere changes with a nanite that is now bioremediating the radiation. It's literally thriving off it. Now, how does that work?
Rick, I have in my hands a report, and it's attributed to Bob Nichols. Bob Nichols, and it's Veterans Today. Veterans Today, Bob Nichols. And this is a recent report, and it jives with what Miles, senior USA preparedness instructor, said that he brought his radiation detection equipment to the United States, to the West Coast, and he was finding over 1,000 counts per minute. And it was like, we were thinking, is that possible? So he had his equipment recalibrated, and it was reading low. So it was greater than 1,000, way over 1,000. So let me just give you these numbers, class. In Portland, Maine, the radiation counts per minute is 1,838 counts per minute. That's 367 times normal. In Colorado, in Springs, Colorado, 331 times normal. Champaign, Illinois, 314 times normal. Little Rock, Arkansas, 314 times normal. Navajo Lake, New Mexico, 312 times normal. We'll be right back. Class, we're talking about radiation, and if you can just bear with me for a minute. The article by Bob Nichols of Veterans Today says there's no escaping it. The leftover bomb-grade isotopes are simply abandoned, unclaimed in the atmosphere, and to drift slowly back to Earth. The bomb rads poison the whole Earth. And the only escape is by death. Even then, your remains are radioactive. So let me please continue. If you felt good because your city wasn't mentioned or an area near you wasn't mentioned, no, just hang on. We're going to ruin the rest of your day. So Pierre, South Dakota, 305 times normal. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, 295 times normal. Wichita, Kansas, 294 times normal. Raleigh, North Carolina, 291. San Diego, California, 280. Idaho Falls, Idaho, 280. Billings, Montana, 269.
Meanwhile, Carnegie Mellon, other universities are trying to tell us that the geoengineering I'm looking at in my atmosphere right now is pseudoscience, that it's water vapor.
Mm-hmm. They're liars.
How does water vapor stay in the atmosphere longer than 1 hour?
Mm-hmm. Well, let me continue, Rick, for those who feel comfortable, because I haven't mentioned a city near them. Billings, Montana, 269.
I think they're related.
Now, I'm talking, these numbers are times normal radiation, whatever normal is. Denver, Colorado, 266. Spokane, Washington, 265. Tucson, Arizona, 264. Harrisonburg, Virginia, 263. Aurora, Illinois, 260. Louisville, Kentucky, 251. Worcester, Massachusetts, 246. Madison, Wisconsin, 239. Kansas City, Kansas, that's near our neck of the woods, 235. Yuma, Arizona, 235. Rochester, New York, 231. Mason City, Iowa, 230. Atlanta, 230. Grand Junction, Colorado, 229. Bismarck, North Dakota, 223. Fresno, California, 222. Bakersfield, California, 221. Charleston, West Virginia, 220. Hartford, Connecticut, 219. Casper, Wyoming, 217. And the rest of these are still over 200, and I'll just read them off. Albuquerque, New Mexico, Lincoln, Nebraska, Des Moines, Iowa, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Concord, New Hampshire, Rapid City, South Dakota, Shreveport, Louisiana, La Crosse, Wisconsin, Boston, Massachusetts, Augusta, Georgia, and Riverside, California, all above 200. Rick, there's no escaping it. There's no escaping it. We all have to breathe, and these particles are so small they get trapped. I'm sorry, they don't get trapped in respirators, correct?
I have a solution, a possible direction for bioremediating your own body. I have been using curcumin 95, which is a turmeric, and I've been using modafillin to get rid of the aluminum and barium oxide. And I had my panels recently tested, and it is, in fact, working. And the article I wrote in Nexus magazine using fullerene water, where you put exclusion zone water inside a fullerene molecule, a C60 molecule, will form a bioremediating form of antioxidant that goes into your body and immediately isolates the ionizing radiation so it can't ricochet around causing cancer. And what you do, they gave rats lethal doses of radiation, and then they fed them fullerene water, and there was repeatedly a 95% recovery. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to come out with a quality of life that you went in. It means you won't die. I don't have answers yet. I know that I don't know, and I know that the irresponsibility of the science community for not speaking out about geoengineering and Fukushima and GMOs and the poisons and toxins and what they're doing for the name of profit and wars that are unnecessary, I don't have an answer. What I've done is I've begun my own sustainable lifeboat.
Rick, aren't the elite of the planet, the very, very, very wealthy of the planet, the top 0.1%, maybe the top 1%, aren't they building underground bunkers? Aren't they looking into their own survival at a furious rate?
What I think is about to happen, there will be no place to hide. You can filter your air. You can take, but when you start talking about nanoparticles, 40 nanometer, there's nothing in our technology that will screen that. That means it falls right through the earth, like, gamma rays.
Rick, what about a bubbler? What about a bubbler system where the air is pulled by vacuum through a pool of water? So let's say we have a...
Yeah, I got you. Plasma.
Will that work?
What we're talking about, it's the way you're going to have to create a cavitation ball around yourself as a envisionment or model in your mind's eye where you have control of the cavitation process of the in and out. And at this juncture, that might be Nibiru. I don't know. What I do know is we're a binary in everything I look at, including our two brains. which means that Nibiru, which is a brown dwarf, it appears magenta if you look at it. Stanford University has identified it. There it is. Has an anomaly of infrared signature. And that suggests an artifact, like, like a Dyson sphere. And I don't know. What I do know is death, as I'm understanding it now in the writings I'm doing on time travel, is not what we think it is. And consciousness in the physics end of it, does continue and changes. And I can tell you how it changes. It's interesting. We don't have a future or past. What we have is this moment. And that's St. Augustine. And where we are at this moment determines the cavitation of survival. It's about attitude. And you have a choice. And that is what I'm going to be talking about in Kansas City. How to prep your mind, because once you prep your mind, your Swiss Army knife follows.
Rick, Norm Shealy and I and you and I were talking about what is causing these cancer rates. And I believe that just from my observations that more and more people, greater percentage of the population is succumbing to cancer.
Well,
and so
you mean complacent, ignorant, and ill-informed? Yeah. Well, count me in. I'm the same as the rest of you. I ate my Dorito corn chips. I'm no longer doing that. But and it's personal changes, and you need to take responsibility for yourself, because the rapture isn't going to come get you. It never came and got me.
Yeah, I remember.
Had to earn every penny.
I remember I was in a bookstore.
It's going to be your mental attitude and the thoughts you choose to entertain. That's what reality is. Your imagination. And it is extended beyond. You can change this movie. You can change this movie. I'm doing it. Even though I'm monitored and I'm this and I'm that, check out my sense of self. And that's where it's going to lie with all of you.
Rick, I was in a bookstore in Springfield, Missouri, and the owner of the bookstore was talking to one of our customers, and she mentioned, "Hey, here, this guy right here's got an expo coming up, and you can learn how to be prepared for everything." This was one of the early expos, maybe Expo 1 or 2. And the woman was a senior citizen, and she looks at me and she says, "Honey, I've got all the preparedness I need right here." And under her arm was a Bible. And she was absolutely positively convinced that was all that she needed. She did not need any physical preparedness whatsoever. And so that's what you were talking about. And there was an article on the internet, and I don't have it in front of me, about the assault on 360 degrees of we the villagers. It's the toxins in the air. It's the toxins in the food, the electromagnetic radiation, the radioactivity, the chemicals that our doctors prescribe, everything, 360 degrees, and it is causing us to get sick. And then
it was Joseph Campbell that said, quote, "When you see the kingdom of the Father on earth, the apocalypse has already occurred. It is perpetual in its potential. And it's about the moment. You can't know what's going to happen and prepare for it, because it doesn't work like that. It is about the moment of discovery. And
Rick, have you seen...
That place is where you change everything. And that's why God made you were favored. You have that choice. I'm looking at this geoengineering. I'm guessing it's a bunch of aliens that are trying to terraform. I'm kidding. This is a sci-fi movie, all right. A bunch of aliens trying to terraform the Earth in front of America so that nobody notices it. We'll lay them down at night, and then everybody will call them clouds in the morning. That's what they do in Mexico. Mexico is ahead of America, though, because their family is still intact. I want everybody to hear that one. If we don't get back our American family, America is lost. That is what made America, was the small family.
Rick, what you're saying resonates very close to home. I've met so many people who are describing how their families are falling apart, literally falling apart. And yet the husband and wife, they're staying together because they'll lose everything if they don't. They'll lose the house, the car, whatever possessions they may have. They'll lose them because they can't afford to live separately. We'll be right back. Class, we're going to have to go very quickly here. We've got multiple callers, but so deadly toxic chemicals have been found in 6 million in the water for at least 6 million Americans, and it's PFAS is the abbreviation for it. And it's been found in California, New Jersey, North Carolina, Alabama, Florida, Pennsylvania, Ohio, New York, Georgia, Minnesota, Arizona, Massachusetts, and Illinois. It might have affected as many as 100 million people, and I'll post a link to that on the website in the next few minutes. Mike in Tennessee, welcome. We got to go very quickly.
Greetings. You should do a show on religions of the world that teach their people to do nothing to prepare and to never fight against criminals. That is, when they pose under the cloak and shield of a government. Now, even though there are scriptures that clearly reveals God has never given dominion of man to man, and Scripture teaches to prepare, they'll put their very lives in the hands of a man's government, man's medicine, and they will reject anything and anybody that requires that they use their God-given brains to provide for themselves.
You're absolutely right. Mike, I'm sorry I'm going to have to let you go. We've got multiple calls here. Mike, thank you so much. Dan in Missouri.
Hi, guys.
Very quickly, please.
I hate to change subjects on you, but we've got a bill coming up the 14th of this month where our representatives and senators get to override our governor's veto of this bill, Senate Bill 656. It has to do with the right to carry concealed without a permit. And if you'll call Mike Kehoe, one of our senators, his number is 573-751-2076. And he said he will support it, but the more calls he gets, the better, because he'll talk to his people.
I'm going to call him right after the broadcast.
Yeah, flood it.
I'm going to call him right after the broadcast. Mike Kehoe, 573-751-2076. Central 576.
What you do.
In Missouri. Hey, thanks so much. Tommy in Tennessee, very quickly, please.
Yeah. Hey, yes, you had a guest on yesterday talking about the judicial system, and there were some things that were incorrect in what he said. You are the beneficiary of the trust. You're not the trustee. And the all-capital letter name is the trust. But the most important point is that you never want to speak your last name into the air, in court or out of court. And that's how the court gets subject matter jurisdiction. You speak your last name. That's what the...
Tommy, Tommy,
what's that, maritime
would you do me a favor?
Or civil?
Go ahead, what?
Tommy, would you give your telephone number to our engineer off the air, and I'll call you after the broadcast?
Okay, sure.
Would you do that, please?
I will.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. So, Rick, did you see the movie? Yeah. Did you see the movie called The Martian, 2015 movie?
Yes, I do.
No?
Yeah, the Mars Attacks is the one I like best. What we're going to need is somebody that can yodel.
Well, I was watching this video last night. NASA sent this mission to Mars, and there was a storm, and they thought that one of the guys was killed, so they left. They blasted off. They came back.
Wasn't that a good movie?
They left a guy. absolutely fabulous. They left him, and he had to fend for himself. He didn't have enough food, didn't have enough water, but he was smart, thought outside the box. And I was watching this, and I was thinking, this is one of the best movies I've seen in a very, very long time, The Martian. And it's how he's like one of us. He's thinking outside the box.
Good luck with that,
he's surviving.
Yes.
He's surviving. And the guys back on Earth are... Yeah, the guys on Earth are trying to figure out how he did it. And ultimately, they came to rescue him. But it was rough. Well worth watching. The Martian.
By the way, Mars has more
Thank you.
water on it than Earth does.
Rick, Mike, thank you so much for being with us today.
You bet.
Class,
Thank you.
above all, honesty and integrity. What happens next is up to you.